Picture this. It's July 29th, 1600, and the main square of Munich is about to witness something so horrific that it would scar an entire nation forever. What you're about to hear isn't just another medieval execution story. This is the shocking truth about how an entire family was legally tortured to death in front of thousands of cheering spectators. And here's the most disturbing part. They were completely innocent. The Papenheimer family massacre wasn't just brutal, it was a calculated political spectacle that reveals the darkest corners of human nature. Today, we're diving deep into one of history's most horrifying examples of legal injustice, where religious paranoia, political ambition, and social hatred combined to create a nightmare that lasted for hours in Munich's main square. We'll uncover how a simple family of latrine cleaners became scapegoats for an entire empire's problems, how torture was used to fabricate confessions of impossible crimes, and why thousands of people gathered to watch children being burned alive, all in the name of divine justice. This isn't just history, it's a warning about what happens when fear and fanaticism take control of society. To understand this horror, we need to meet the Papenheimers. Paulus Papenheimer, his wife Anna, and their 3 children, 21-year-old Gumprecht and 10-year-old twins Michelle and Hansel, were what we call homeless today. They wandered the roads of Bavaria, surviving by doing the most despised work imaginable, cleaning septic pits and public latrines. But here's what makes their story so tragic. They were the perfect victims for what was about to unfold. In 1596, Bavaria was gripped by Catholic Counter-Reformation paranoia. Duke Maximilian I had launched a campaign of moral purification, and he needed scapegoats to prove his religious devotion. The Papenheimers were ideal targets. They were social outcasts, they had no powerful friends to protect them, and most importantly, they were different. In a society obsessed with conformity, being a wandering family automatically made you suspicious. For years, they'd faced minor accusations, a missing chicken here, some stolen bread there, but nothing serious. That all changed in 1599, when they were accused of stealing from a church. This time, the authorities decided to make an example that would terrify the entire region. What happened next reveals the systematic brutality of medieval justice. The Papenheimers were thrown into damp, freezing dungeons and subjected to months of psychological and physical torture designed to break their minds completely. Here's how diabolical this process was. The torturers followed a specific manual. Yes, there was actually a handbook for extracting witchcraft confessions. First, they'd show the victims the instruments, explaining in graphic detail how each one worked. This psychological phase often produced partial confessions before any physical pain was applied. When that didn't work, the torture began gradually and increased systematically. Sleep deprivation, starvation, and constant interrogation wore down their resistance. The torturers were trained professionals who knew exactly how to apply pain to maximize suffering while keeping victims conscious. Under this systematic brutality, Paulus confessed to making pacts with the devil, participating in satanic rituals, and committing over 400 murders. Anna admitted to using black magic to destroy crops and livestock. Even the children were forced to confess to helping their parents' supposed crimes. But here's the shocking truth that emerged centuries later. Many of these confessions were physically impossible. The family was documented in other cities during the dates of their alleged crimes. Witnesses later admitted to being bribed or threatened into giving false testimony. The entire case was fabricated through torture. July 29, 1600, dawned like a festival day in Munich. Thousands gathered in the main square. Men, women, and children brought by their parents to witness divine justice. Street vendors sold food and drinks as if it were a celebration. The atmosphere was one of morbid excitement mixed with religious fervor. What followed was a carefully orchestrated theater of cruelty that lasted for hours. The authorities had designed different tortures for each family member, turning their deaths into a public spectacle that would demonstrate the power of the state and the church. Paulus was subjected to flaying. Heated pincers methodically tore away pieces of his flesh while he remained conscious. The executioners worked with surgical precision, ensuring he felt every moment of agony. Anna was tortured differently. Her breasts were cut with heated knives before she was placed on a torture wheel, where her bones were systematically broken. The children weren't spared. Gumprecht was forced to watch his parents torture before facing his own. The 10-year-old twins, still children, were subjected to what the records call moderate torture, though it still resulted in serious injuries and unimaginable suffering. The climax came when the surviving family members were placed on stakes to be burned alive. The fires were lit slowly to prolong the agony. Paulus, still alive after hours of torture, was the last to die, his screams finally silencing when the flames reached his head. But why did this happen? The answer reveals something terrifying about human nature and political power. This wasn't about justice. It was about propaganda, economics, and social control. Duke Maximilian I was under pressure from the Catholic Church to prove his dedication to the Counter-Reformation. The spectacular execution of an entire family of witches served as powerful propaganda of his piety and determination to purify Bavaria. There were also economic motivations. The confiscated goods of people condemned for witchcraft went to the crown. While the Papenheimers had few possessions, the precedent established would facilitate future confiscations from wealthier families. Most disturbing of all, this wasn't an isolated event. The Papenheimer execution was the beginning of a systematic campaign of terror that would sweep Bavaria for decades. Hundreds more would die under similar accusations, following the same pattern. Social outcasts transformed into scapegoats to satisfy political and religious needs. The case demonstrates how torture can produce any desired confession. The interrogators already knew which crimes they wanted the Papenheimers to confess to. Through systematic application of pain, they created a narrative that justified not only the execution, but also the extreme brutality of the chosen method. The horror of Munich Square wasn't just the suffering of one innocent family. It was the revelation of how quickly a civilized society can transform into something monstrous when dominated by fear, fanaticism, and the search for scapegoats. Today, historians consider the Papenheimer family victims of one of the greatest judicial errors in German history. Their confessions, obtained under extreme torture, had no legal value. Their crimes, for the most part, probably never happened. Their brutal execution served only to satisfy the bloodlust of a society gripped by paranoia. The Munich Square where this horror took place still exists today, now a bustling commercial center. No plaque marks the spot where 5 innocent people faced unimaginable torture. The city preferred to forget this dark chapter of its history. But we must remember, the Papenheimer case serves as a stark warning about the dangers of extremism, religious intolerance, and justice based on confessions obtained under coercion. It reminds us that civilization is fragile, always threatened by the barbarity that lurks in the shadows of society. What do you think are the warning signs we should watch for in our own time? When societies start dividing people into us and them, when fear is weaponized against minorities, how should we respond? These aren't just historical questions. They're essential for preventing such horrors from happening again. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this historical account offered new insights, make sure you're subscribed for more deep dives into the darker chapters of human history that we must never forget.